I used to think being good at your job was enough, that working hard, being respectful, delivering results, those things would protect you. I was wrong. You're fired. That's all he said. No explanation, no warning, just those two words. After years of loyalty, leadership, and results, I was tossed aside like nothing. But what they didn't know is that I don't go down without a plan. And when I come back stronger. This is the story of how I lost everything and rebuilt it better than ever, with a quiet revenge they never saw coming. My name is Madeline Carter, or just Maddie. I'm a 34-year-old architect and project manager in New York. For 8 years, I poured my soul into Hale and Partners, a respected architecture firm run by Richard Hale. I led major residential and commercial projects, brought in millions in revenue, trained interns, and built a reputation for being sharp, efficient, and loyal. Then came Brandon Hale, Richard's cousin. He joined the company as a consultant, but in reality, he was eyeing a leadership role without doing the groundwork. Brandon was charming on the outside, but something always felt off. He was all talk, no execution, stealing credit, interrupting meetings, undermining quiet people in the room. At first, I tried to work with him, but one day he outright presented my design, a green modular housing plan, to the board, with his name on the mock-up. I was stunned. When I confronted him privately, he said with that smug smile, "You're great at building things, Maddie. I'm just better at selling them." I wanted to scream, but I kept calm. I documented everything. I told myself, this won't last. The truth always wins. But I was wrong. A few weeks later, I was called into Richard's office. He didn't even look at me when he said it. "We're letting you go." I froze. My ears rang, my heartbeat filled the silence in the room. "What?" I whispered. "Why?" He exhaled. "It's not working out. You've become difficult to collaborate with." Difficult? After everything I had done? My hands started shaking. I clenched them in my lap to hide it. Difficult? Or just not afraid to stand up to your cousin? I asked, my voice tight, barely controlled. He didn't answer. He just adjusted his glasses and looked away, like I was a problem he couldn't wait to delete. A lump rose in my throat, but I refused to cry in front of him. I bit the inside of my cheek so hard it hurt. That day, I packed my things in silence. No goodbye party, no handshake, no explanations to the team I helped build. Just whispers behind doors, awkward eye contact, and the sound of my own footsteps echoing down the hallway I used to walk with pride. When the elevator opened, Brandon was already there, arms crossed, leaning casually, like he'd been waiting just to watch me fall. "No hard feelings, Maddie. Business is business." That smug face, that smug voice. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to tell everyone the truth right then and there. But I didn't. I stepped in. The doors closed, and as I rode down, I felt like the world was collapsing around me. The woman staring at me in the elevator's mirror looked hollow, not the strong leader she used to be. Just a broken reflection of someone who'd given everything and been discarded like nothing. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, still in my work clothes, still clutching my office badge like it meant something. I replayed every meeting, every late night, every decision, every time I stayed late to fix someone else's mess, every time I made them look good. For what? For betrayal, for silence, for "we're letting you go." The next 2 weeks were a blur. I slept in, ignored calls, ate cereal for dinner, wondered if I was even good at what I did, wondered if everything they said about me was true. Maybe I was difficult. Maybe I should have just stayed quiet. I hated feeling like that. But something deeper inside me whispered, "You get the final word." And that's when everything began to change. A month later, I walked through those same glass doors again, not as an employee, not as a victim, but as a woman with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. Richard had reached out after one of our clients, a major investor, demanded I be involved in the Elysium project. Apparently, my name still meant something to the people who actually mattered. But walking back into that office, it felt like reopening a wound. Every wall, every hallway, they whispered what had happened to me. People looked at me like I was a ghost, some with guilt, others with pity, a few with fear. I kept my head high, but inside my chest ached. What if I fail? What if I can't fix this? What if they were right about me? But then I saw Brandon. He didn't look smug this time. He looked cornered. Maybe he thought I'd crawl back, that I'd be too broken to stand tall. But I wasn't broken. I was focused and more dangerous than ever, because now I had clarity. My quiet plan. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I just started working. I reviewed every file, found the discrepancies in the Elysium plans he had submitted. The math didn't add up. The structural integrity was off. If it had gone to build, it would have been a disaster. I took screenshots, documented everything, sent quiet emails, asked strategic questions in public meetings, just enough to make people wonder. Brandon started sweating. He'd interrupt me, try to explain his logic, but the more he talked, the more the cracks showed. I could see the team shifting. Eyes started turning to me with curiosity, respect, hope, and that gave me the strength to keep going. Still, at night, I broke down. I'd come home, kick off my heels, and sit on the floor with a glass of wine, heart racing, hands trembling. What if this backfires? What if he wins again? What if they silence me twice? But then I remembered the girl in the elevator mirror, the one who looked hollow. I made her a promise. We don't leave this story unfinished. So I kept digging, and I kept finding things, until the truth became undeniable. The quiet revenge. It all came to a head during a stakeholder presentation. I let Brandon speak first. He fumbled through slides I had once created, twisted, watered-down versions of my work. The room was stiff. Clients looked confused. Then it was my turn. I stood, calm, prepared, but my heart was pounding like a war drum in my chest. I walked them through my real proposal. Numbers that made sense, visuals that inspired confidence, strategies backed by data. The clients leaned in. Richard narrowed his eyes. Brandon turned pale. "Wait," one of the clients interrupted. "This contradicts what we were shown weeks ago." I didn't flinch. That's because what you were shown before was incomplete. I pulled out the receipts, side-by-side comparisons, time-stamped file histories, internal emails, subtle but undeniable. I didn't say Brandon lied. I didn't need to. The room said it for me. Brandon tried to protest, but his voice cracked. He flipped through his papers, looking for a lifeline. There wasn't one. Silence. Then Richard, who hadn't said a word in 20 minutes, cleared his throat and said, "Madeline, could you stay for a moment after this meeting?" My pulse spiked. For a second, fear returned, that old suffocating fear of being blindsided. But I nodded. After the meeting. The door shut. Richard didn't sit. He stared at me. I stared back. "You knew all along." I didn't respond. He sighed and sat down slowly. "Why didn't you come to me directly?" My voice was quiet but steady. "Because the last time I did, I got fired." He looked away. Guilty. Maybe for the first time in his entire career. "Brandon has been suspended. Indefinitely. And I'd like to offer you your role back." I took a deep breath. Everything in me wanted to scream yes, to take back what was mine. But something had changed in me. "I'll return, but not to the same role. I want creative control on my projects. I want the final say on my team, and I want my name on every blueprint I touch." He blinked, then slowly nodded. "You've earned it. No apology, but I didn't need one. This was the apology." 6 months later, I sit in my new office. My office. After Brandon's dismissal and the fallout, Richard offered me a full-time return, but I declined. Instead, I started my own firm. Hale and Burke became just another name in the market. Now, clients come to me. I built a team that values each other, that uplifts instead of erasing. But sometimes, I still think about it. The humiliation, the nights I couldn't sleep, the way I doubted my own brilliance because someone else was louder. Sometimes, when I see a young woman hesitate before speaking up in a meeting, I want to grab her hand and say, "Don't let them steal your voice, ever." And when I look in the mirror now, I no longer see someone who was fired. I see someone who rose from the ashes, wiser, sharper, unstoppable. But I still ask myself, what would have happened if I had stayed silent? And more importantly, how many brilliant women still do?